How far are you willing to go? The drive, the sweat, the blood, the tears, your determination through the pain and all the suffering, people overlooking you, telling you that you're not good enough. You have to believe that you're great. And with you believing that you're great, anything you want to do, you can achieve. No one can stop you. Only you can stop yourself. Keep driving. Keep uplifting yourself. Keep going. Keep going. Nothing, and no one can stop you. That goal you want, you can achieve it. How you inspire people is going to be up to you. Keep going. Never give up. Never give up. Keep going. Never give up.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Icon. And we here on 910 Sports TV once again. If I got to thank God for this moment, because without him, it wouldn't be no us. And it's funny, before I introduce everybody, so I said it the way I said it, my signature word, my signature phrase, because I got a call last week. I was at an event, and my friend Chris Patterson called me. He said, bro, he said, man, I can't even, you say it the way you say it. That's your signature saying. He said, so I need you to put some emphasis back into it. He said, I know
Mm.
you're used to saying it all the time. He said, but that's your brain. And he said, you can, well, after you say it, you can do whatever you want, but you need to say that the right way. So I wanted to shout out him for kind of putting that back in, that battery back in my back. Because, you say something so much and it becomes redundant and you're not even thinking about it no more. So I'm shouting out Chris Patterson for making me realize that, that
Absolutely.
people look forward to that. But anyway, so I'm gonna introduce everybody from my right to my left. I got the great coach, what I'm saying, out there in VA holding it down up north for us. What I'm saying, the great coach Goins. How you doing, sir?
Hey, it's a pleasure, man, and just ready to chop it up with you guys and our special guest, Dr. Boyd.
And so then next I got my man down here in the bottom of the screen. Both of us might be in mourning soon because, my Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry might be gone. Michael Parsons might be gone for the Cowboys, but that's going to be a subject for another day. So right now we kind of just waiting around like I don't know, like we waiting for a baby to come out or something. I don't know. But anyway, all right, Jacob, I'm going to let you. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Oh man, I'm great, and great some more. So,
Okay,
so
go
let's let's
ahead.
let's let's get it cracking. We got Dr. Dean Boyd, man, a Hall of Fame coach. Another great South Carolina Hall of Fame coach, man, shaping young men in into the gentlemen to get them ready for society. But just an all around great guy, man. He's a he's a educational scholar and is no holds barred on that gridiron on that football field. So if you want to play for him, or if you want him to get you to the next level, then you better be ready because ain't no calling your mama because what I mean. We're gonna get all the way into it. What's up, Doc? How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent,
We good,
excellent.
Good,
man. We
good,
good,
good.
man. Excited to
Appreciate
have you.
you. Appreciate you having me on too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Doc, you bounced around down in the low country of South Carolina, man, Marlboro County and down there what we call uh uh the loggers, the Putwood boys. You know what I mean? So yeah. I remember playing against some of them boys. I said, man, good God Almighty, man, these boys already probably been played 300 pounds in ninth grade. Some big old jokers, man. So, coach, tell me what inspired you to start coaching.
I have two brothers that were head coaches. My dad was a Legion baseball coach, so we all three played for him, and he coached Legion baseball for like 25 years. So we got drug around to all the different parks and places across South Carolina playing ball, and just kind of gets in your blood, and you see how much fun's involved in it. You see how you can shape kids' lives and be there for them. I saw my dad do it for a long time. Then I saw my two brothers doing it. And of course, I played ball and I wanted to stay close to it. So I just thought it was a great way for me to segue my life right straight into that when I got finished with my playing days. So it's just something that was in our blood and something that was preached to us when we were young and little. And my dad had a great work ethic, and he put that in us. And we had gardens and yards and stuff that he made us do all the time, made us work in all the time. And one of the ways that we could kind of get out of that is if we played a sport early on. So it started happening early because pulling them weeds in them gardens and throwing them rocks out there is tough work. And it was nice to be able to take a break every now and again and go to football practice.
Right. I definitely understand. So Coach, walk us through the very first year that you took a coaching gig.
I started out actually 2 years I was at Winthrop. I went to Winthrop to play baseball, and that didn't work out. So after about 2 years, I started to look at about trying to get into coaching so that when I got out of Winthrop, I could maybe coach on varsity level. Because back in those days, you only had about 5 varsity coaches. You didn't have 20 like you do nowadays, or like a lot of people do nowadays. You just had it was 5 guys. You coached one side of the ball for half the practice for 2 hours, and then the next 2 hours you coach the other side of the ball. And that's the other thing that's changed a lot. Now if you go 2 hours, somebody wants to sue you. Back in those days, you might go 4 hours and you might practice 4 times like that. It was crazy. But my first real gig, though, like I said, when I was in college, I helped at York for a year and I helped at Indian Land for a year. But my first real gig was as an assistant coach under Louis Lineberg at Hartsville High School. And I was there 7 years.
That's funny. Now, what a coincidence. We just had him on.
He's a great man. Great man. I learned a lot from him. I carry a lot of the things that we still do today from him, and a lot of the sayings and a lot of the toughness type things and the drills and stuff we still do today here at York. That's 40 years later. And after I left Coach Lineberger, I got my first head coaching job down at Williston Elko High School, which was a 1A school, and I had to cut my teeth somewhere. I had like 20 different schools I interviewed for. None of them would give me a job. I was really young looking at the time, and they all felt like I was too young and too small to be able to do this. And, so I just kind of kept a checklist of all those schools that said no. And when I got my chance, I got that job at Williston. We turned that program around pretty quickly. And 3 years later, after 3 years there, I got to Marlboro, and I spent 22 years there before coming to York. So, and then along the way, clicked a lot of those schools off that happened to pass me by.
Whoa.
And still got the list, boys. I still got the list.
Okay. That's amazing, Coach. Williston Esco. So I would say I kind of know about that 1A, when playing teams like McBee and Ware Shoals and Dixie and school Lamar and schools like that. So you played against some talent that went on to play Division I and some that played in the pros, So 22 years at Marlboro, man, that's a long time to be a head coach in one place. And so,
I was also the athletic director there too. So, and the athletic director of 5 middle schools at the same time. So it was a pretty demanding job there.
Man,
Wow.
listen, man, they spit you out so far to make it. Sometimes I'm pretty sure you be like, oh my goodness, man, I can finally sit in the recliner. So being a head coach and athletic director and dealing with the high schools and the middle schools, man, that's a lot of egos that you have to kind of monitor and discipline. So what was that like for you on a mental and emotional level?
Yeah, it was, you had all gamuts at all of those schools. You had kids who had a lot of money and felt privileged or felt entitled. And then you had a lot of kids who didn't have any money and, they were just looking for attention. And then you in football is a violent sport. It's a violent game. And you got to walk that line, teeter that line. You got to have some edgy guys if you want to be good and you want to last as long as I have. You've got to learn to try to take those edgy guys and make it controlled chaos. And, we were fortunate enough. I've had some great assistant coaches. I've had some great players. And we were fortunate enough to do that there. I mean, we reeled off a span probably, 12, 13 years in a row where we won over 10 games a year. And, and it was a program that had athletes, but just it quite didn't have it going where it needed to go. When I got there, I think they'd been 2-9 or 2-8 2 years in a row. And that first year we were like 4-8 and made it to the playoffs, got beat by a great Easley team that had Eric Meekins, who ended up playing at Clemson all that time. But then the next year we go 15-0. The kids bought in. They understood what I was trying to get done. We got them in the weight room. They really hadn't hit the weight room that hard, and I built them a new weight room. I went out and got money, and we painted and did a bunch of work and got a new weight room. And I took them to the first weightlifting competition we went to was in Darlington County at a gym there, and I just happened to see it when I was in the convenience store one day. It said there was a little flyer up. It said teenage bench press contest. So our kids had never been to anything like that. So I loaded the van up. I took about 15 of them down there, and there wasn't that many kids in the thing. We won 14 of the 14 of the 15 won their weight class or whatever. But there wasn't a lot of competition there. But I didn't let our kids understand that. Hey, look, you came back a champion, and we can do that at the big level, on every level. And we kind of just built it from there, and they started buying in and believing in. And we were fortunate enough to have some really good players that second and third year I was there that kind of sparked it. When I start reading off guys like Tommy Zimmerman and Savell Newton and Robert Ayers and guys like that, Lee Pegues and Thomas Till and Quentin Till, all these guys played in the NFL or had a shot at playing in the NFL. So we had some really great players. I had some really good coaches. I was fortunate enough to bring some guys in, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
Okay. So, Coach, now, being a head coach is one thing, but I know, and I have heard this for some years now, that you was probably the number one strength and conditioning coach in South Carolina when it comes to high school athletics. So tell me why you push that so much, as being a head coach versus you didn't hear about other coaches really pushing that strength and conditioning. Of course they lift weights, but there's a whole lot more that comes with strength and conditioning than lifting weights. Well,
I think we've tried to be on the cutting edge. I think different eras has different things. You got to try to find that edge or that extra. And coming from a program at York and Indian Land where we kind of struggled a little bit when I was in college, and then coming down to Hartsville and seeing how hard they worked in the weight room and the kind of conditioning that they did there, and nobody really knew about it, but they were winning. I mean, I was there 7 years, and we played for 4 state championships and won 5 region titles. So I saw that, and so that the next thing I thought, and I think this is where you're coming in and saying some of the stuff that you're saying. I was probably the first or one of the first guys to hire full-time strength coaches in the state. I just felt like at that time that we had assistant football coaches doing it, and they were doing a good job and that sort of thing. But we needed to hire guys that this is all they studied. This is all they knew about. We had to make sure it was the right fit. They had to understand it. Yet they were still trying to get something done football-wise. But, I convinced Marlboro to hire a full-time strength coach, and that's all he did all day long. And now the state's full of that. But it wasn't that way 35 years ago. It wasn't that way, or 25 years ago. It wasn't that way. So we had to convince them to do that. We got the strength organization going. There was some guys before me, Phil Williams and Ron Blackman and Charlie Macaluso, who had just kind of started this strength, the Coaches Association. I jumped in that full speed. And, because to look at me, I'm not a big weightlifter. I never have been because it wasn't that important when we played. No, I mean, we had a universal machine. That's all we had. And but I saw the advantages of it, and I encouraged our kids. And once they started seeing their bodies change, we wrapped our whole weight room in mirrors. I wanted them to see from the 9th grade year to the middle of their 10th grade year how much they had gone, and middle of the 10th grade year to the 12th grade year. And we took pictures of them in their 9th grade with their shirt off, and then took pictures of them again their senior year and put it up on the board and let them see those types of things to show them what they can accomplish and what they had accomplished by hard work. And but then we started adding other phases to it. As you said, we started adding the sprint phase. I was one of the first ones to use catapults in the state. We did that at Marlboro County, and then I brought it here to York. But we were the first one of the first ones. We might not have been the first, but we were in the top 2 or 3 if we weren't the first one to use the catapult. Well, we started. Now we're not really developing 40 times. We're looking at miles per hour. We're looking at how many, what the input is on the use of their body during the week. So in other words, if I'm practicing them and I'm dogging them out for 3 days and I look at their catapult, it gives me their total volume of work. And I said, whoa, we got to back off because they're going to be dead on Friday night if we don't back off. So we started using all this data and started doing all this stuff. And now, most of the state's doing it, but so now I'm looking for the next edge, because I think you always have to try to find something that's an edge out there that nobody's really got their hands on yet to give you an advantage, so to speak. And we've been fortunate enough to do that. We've been, bottom line is you got to have players, and we've had some great players, some great young men, but they got to buy in too. I mean, and then when you don't have them, you got to have kids that just fight, that won't give up. They might get beat, but they're going to fight to the last whistle, to the last light goes off on that scoreboard. And, we try to instill that in them. We do things like hit punching bags all during the off season. We take a day where we go down there and hit the heavy bags, and I blow it. They got to hit it 30 seconds as long as they can. And everybody says 30 seconds. That's all you do. Go hit a heavy bag for 30 seconds as hard and fast as you can. It'll wear you out. And so we're just trying to do things like that to try to build a little bit of toughness because, honestly, I think we live in a time that, we're softer than we used to be. Let's just call it what it is. We've all, and I'm guilty as charged, we all wanted what our kids to have it better than we have. But somewhere along the line, we forgot that they need those failures. They need that heartache. They need that toughness. And they need that adversity to be able to overcome and be better people. And so that's what we try to do. We try to put them in adverse situations and make them fight their way out of it.
Okay. Appreciate that, Coach. Coach Goins, over to you, man.
Man, I tell you what, I'm ready to put the chin strap on right now. Got me fired up. Hey, I might have to go find me a heavy bag before the night. So, but no, just congratulations, Dr. Boyd, on all the accolades. Was reading down through the bio. Coach. When you're coach of the year, not just in the conference, but when you're coach of the year for the entire state, just a huge honor. And again, just appreciate just listening to the vision, your vision casting, dream building. And being able to take a program and do the things that you do, just hats off. So you did say Marlboro County, and when you said that, a name clicked in my head. So I want to toss this name out. See, you have you ever heard of a guy named Ken Spencer?
Oh yes, sir. I sure have.
Okay. All right. Actually, Ken and I went to high school together, yep. and I went to UNC Pembroke, and he came down on a basketball scholarship. So when I heard that Marlboro County, I said he's got to know Ken. So that's pretty sweet. But here's my question: so winning the South Carolina Coach of the Year, how did that make you feel in that moment to get the call, to get the letter, to go home and tell your dad, share that with your brothers, tell our viewing audience, just what did that mean? What did that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot because your peers are voting for that most of the time. Sometimes the media is involved in it too, but it means a lot. It's just kind of a way to reward the hard work. But, the first thing you want to do is make sure you share that with the guys that made that happen. Because there wouldn't be any Coach of the Year honors if I didn't have great players, if I didn't have great assistants that would buy in and share my vision and try to follow my philosophy and what I try to do. But, the one thing I didn't mention earlier, and it goes along with this right here, is that, we're not really building, we're not going out and saying we're trying to win this game or trying to win this game. we're trying to get better every single day, 1% better each day, and trying to do it the right way, and doing the little things and paying attention to details. You know, I tell our kids every day, little things lead to big things that make a big difference. Once you start doing those things with the right chemistry, you're going to win. The wins are going to pile in. So we're either winning or we're learning, because if we get beat, we got to learn from it. If you don't learn from it, then it's truly a loss. So those are the types of things that we try to build into all that, what you're talking about. And you know, Ken, I hired him. He was actually already at Marlboro, but they had him like a 9th grade basketball coach. And I sat down with him. I could see right away he kind of shared the same vision I had and the same ideals. And as the athletic director, I said, no, we're going to bring you on up to varsity, get you started there. And the biggest problem I had there is I couldn't keep him there because he went on up into the college level. But he did an outstanding job there. Played for 2 state championships there, and with the same kids that we had on. You know, we had all of them played football and basketball and ran track, and you know, more kids need to do that nowadays. So you're seeing so much specialization. You're seeing so much recruiting going on. You know, the recruiting stuff is. I'm not a recruiter, guys. I'm a coach.
Right.
And it's old school like that. You know, I mean, you either one or the other. You know, you got guys that are winning that are recruiting, and I'm not downplaying them. And they're hell of a recruiters, but it ain't coaching. Right. I'm coaching. May not win as much, but we're coaching the kids that we got. The kids that walk in our doors, they're going to get an opportunity to play without having to bring somebody else in. And you know, now don't get me wrong, we get a transfer every now and again that comes in and plays, but it's done the right way. And right. I can't ask our kids not to do anything I can't ask them to be in, you know, have integrity if I don't show that myself. And there's a lot of things going on now that it's sad to see, because a lot of kids are getting left out that don't need to get left out. Football, to me, in any coaching, but especially football, is our last bastion for this country. It really is. I mean, I know that I'm a football coach and I'm selfish and I'm saying that, but to me, it's the last bastion, because it is truly a place where we can teach young men how to be tough, how to work together, how to be good citizens, and we as coaches need to do a good job doing that.
That's excellent. So I got one more for you. So hindsight is always 20/20. So if you could imagine yourself in the locker room, and a young Dean Boyd walks in and wants to be a coach, what would that conversation be like?
I had some of those the past couple of weeks. You know, I've helped several guys. Coach Kevin Roller at Dillon. Y'all may be aware of him. Kelvin started with me at Marlboro, but he started as a volunteer assistant. He came to me. We were practicing one day. He came to me, he said, and he played at Marlboro. He said, Coach, I'm working in the mill right now. I don't like that. What do I need to do if I want to be a football coach? So then I pick up the phone. I call Coach David Bennett at Coastal Carolina. I said, I got a guy that's been helping us out. It's a great young man. He's willing to do what he's got to do to be a coach. And you need to put him on as a student GA. Get him in school. Get him as a student GA. Well, he did that, and then he went to be a regular GA, and now he is the head coach at Dillon High School and doing an outstanding job. So that's kind of the way I do it. You know, I look at guys and say, you may not be the player that you want to be, all right? So if that's the case, but you love athletics and you love sports and you love being around people and helping young people, you need to learn everything you can learn and do everything that you can do to make yourself more open to that profession. And I mean, that's kind of what I did. I went to York and said, hey, look, I want to coach in 2 years when I get out. And is there anything that, you know, I'll clean the locker rooms, you know, I'll wash the clothes, whatever I need to do. I want to be a part of it. And I'll never forget Coach Pate, Bill Pate. He said, well, we got a spot on the JV team. We'll let you coach defensive line. He said, I can't pay anything. He said, but I'm going to give you 20 Booster Club tickets, and they're $10 a piece. If you sell all those 20 Booster Club tickets, you get $200. So that's what I got. I got $200 because I went out and sold them. So I would pay $200 that year. But I was able to, because I worked at those two places, I was able to get that varsity assistant job under Coach Lineberger, whereas I would have probably been a JV coach or a middle school coach, and nothing against those. It's like you talked about earlier with the being at Williston, I think every coach ought to have to coach 1A. I think every coach in the state for at least 2 years ought to have to coach 1A ball, because I learned more in those 3 years at Williston. Because you get a player hurt, you don't lose one position, you lose 8 positions, and you got to learn how to deal with that. So I think I kind of got off topic there, but you know what I'm getting at.
Oh, and yes, sir, without a doubt. So appreciate that. Icon E, man, what you got teed up for the coach?
Well, first and foremost, aren't you like a newly Hall of Famer also?
I got that this past week. Yes, sir. I sure did.
Yeah, so congratulations on that. So I meant to ask Coach Lineberg about this. So, in the Masters, we get the green jacket, NFL get the gold. What did they give y'all down in South Carolina?
They gave us a plaque and a ring. So it was pretty cool.
Okay.
It was pretty cool.
Okay.
And it was nice to have my family there, and and I had a lot of players, a lot of coaches come back and be there. And, that's not an easy trip. As in Greenville, they have to come all the way from Marlboro, York, or Williston and come up there. So it wasn't an easy trip, but had a lot of those guys there. And it was really, it was really a nice night. And again, the credit goes to the people that I was lucky enough to surround myself, with. We had, I can't, I mentioned a few players earlier, but there's so many more. And to have so many coaches, I've had, I think it's 29 coaches that's gone on to be head coaches.
Wow.
I've had one superintendent that I gave him his first job as a coach. I've had several principals. So the leadership style, the leadership stuff that we do, we're very detailed. We're real Army based. I got to spend some time out at the U.S. Army game a few times and got to sit down with General Petraeus and a couple of guys, and they really walked me through their leadership principles, and just a really good thing. And it was really a nice thing Sunday night.
Okay. So how did you get the call? Did you get a call, an email, a text? How did you find out?
I got a call from Scott Early, which he's the executive director. And Scott and I played in probably one of the most memorable games in South Carolina. I got beat, and he reminded me of that. But we were playing Myrtle Beach in the lower state championship. We got beat 52-51 in triple overtime. They had, we had Elliot Alford play quarterback for us, and they had the kid that played at Notre Dame and Everett Golson. I think Elliott threw for 505 yards that night, and then Golson threw for 491. So there wasn't a lot of defense, but it was a heck of a game. We went for 2 to win it. Guy tipped the ball right off our receiver's hands. I mean, it's just one of those things. But he's the one that called me. I think that he called Coach Lineberger, and he kind of gave me a heads up because he was excited about it and wanted to let me know. And I was glad to hear from him and Coach Roscoe, who's a mentor of mine, and Johnny Roscoe, and had a bunch of time here in South Carolina and did a great job. And it was just a great night for me. And my brothers were there. Both of them are Hall of Famers too. So,
wow.
So we have 3 brothers that are in the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Hall of Fame. And that's a pretty sweet thing. I mean, it's pretty unique. It's pretty sweet. And, both of those guys have forgotten more football than I'll ever know. So I'm just glad to be a part of it, glad to have had the opportunity, and still glad I'm coaching. I love it.
Wow.
So let's get back to the strength and conditioning. The question I got is because now I think me and Jacob was talking about this earlier, and I was talking about this with somebody yesterday about, we talk about these players when they get the age of 30, and, for years it's always on, other side of 30, teams don't want to sign you to new deals because they think you're about to be washed up. But we're in a new era where strength and conditioning has changed the game with the new technology and medicine and all the good stuff that goes along with it. So what's kind of the secret sauce to help players basically be to have a longer career in the NFL that you would know about?
Well, I think what you're talking about, there's a good example of that. It just retired at 47 years old, and Tom Brady. I mean, he got better shape and better looking as he got older. And took care of his body. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you got to it used to be when we first started this stuff that everybody just benched and squatted, and you try to do just that. Now it's a total body thing. And we still put a lot of emphasis on the three major lists, bench, squat, and power clean. But there's so much more to it than that. And I think that if a person, especially ever gets to the NFL level, most of those guys hire them a guy that they probably pay, I don't know, $600,000-$700,000 a year because they can afford to do it. And that right diet, putting the right things in your body, and taking care of yourself. So I think that is a big part of it. But I do think that, you have to be real careful because it is a fine line. A guy gets a lot of injuries, a guy gets hurt lifting weights. You have to be careful because you don't want a guy being at 40 and 50 and 55 years old not being able to move his body around and do what he does. But you can look in the NFL right now and you watch it's kind of funny, to be honest with you. You watch all the skill guys and they're in such great shape when they're playing. And then you look at a lot of those guys 10 years after they've played and they're big, they're heavy. But you look at those offensive linemen, a lot of those guys are 350 pounds and they drop it immediately because they know that their body's not supposed to carry that much weight. They're carrying it for their career. But as soon as they can, if they've got the right people guiding them and working with them, they drop that weight immediately. I mean, you can look at the guy that just retired from Philadelphia a couple of years ago, Kelsey. You can look at him and several others that you can see.
Mark Larry.
Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that just taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, because what it becomes is everybody thinks, well, these guys playing NFL, they can go out there, great athletes, they can just go out there and they show up when it's time. They don't. They work. Now they might work in the weight room 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and you say there's no way they can do that. Well, they're not hitting the same muscle groups. They're doing different type things. They're doing ice baths. They're doing saunas. They're doing things, massage and all that kind of stuff, cupping, everything else to keep their bodies in the best shape. And I think that's probably the next cutting edge for even colleges. And I don't know that it ever get to high school because it's so expensive, but definitely, guys that can afford it are going to do what they can to take care of their bodies.
Let me ask you this question. So I'm seeing something that's starting to disturb me a little bit, and in your your long career, I'm pretty sure you've dealt with it, and maybe not at this extent, but I'm seeing coaches where they're getting into it with the players doing practice, and even almost turning to fist fights, and a lot of disrespectful words are going back and forth, and things of that nature. So I'm pretty, tempers get high, especially probably doing training camp and doing those long hot days that you have. So as a coach, how do you kind of deal with it? Do you go to the coach first and say, listen, you're the leader, you're the adult in the room, so you can't be going back and forth? Or do you sit them down together? What is your approach when you see those type of things going on?
Well, I'm a volatile guy, and over the years, I've had situations like that, but I've kind of learned through experience over the years, you can't really address somebody and I don't want to say a demeaning manner because that's not the right words, but you can't address somebody harshly unless they respect you, unless you have a relationship with them. I think that's what I try to tell my coaches. All right, look, you can get on a kid. That's part of coaching football. But make sure you have a relationship with him. Make sure he understands that you love him and you care about him and you're doing everything that you can to help him. And once you get on him, once things calm down, you got to go back to him and talk to him. Say, look, I'm only trying to make you better. I'm coaching you hard to make you a better man because things in life are going to be hard. And not everybody's going to be easy on you. It's not going to be sugar plums and all that kind of stuff. You've got to learn to be able to take some criticisms or you're not going to be able to make it through life. But then I also monitor, don't try not to make anything derogatory. Don't say anything as far as making things personal, and that sort of thing. We're all here to make these kids better young men. And to do that doesn't mean to be soft. I'm not saying that we need to be, it's all kumbaya. I'm not saying that. But, what I'm saying is there's a right way to do it. And it is a respect factor. In the same regards, we talk to our kids. I talk to them every day. We're going to coach you hard. There's going to be times where we might be some yelling and some screaming, but it's to make you better. It's to try to motivate you but you also, as a coach, got to know that not everybody reacts to the same way. I give you one of the best players I ever coached, Tamir Zimmerman. And I'll put him in the same group with Savelle. I could get on Savelle as hard as I could get on anybody, and it would just be like water off a duck's back. Didn't bother him. He knew he was good. He knew he could play. He knew he was confident. It didn't bother him. He just, in his mind, it's like coach is going off again for no reason, that type of thing. But if I did that to Tamir, he'd shut down. All right. So I had to coach him different. Tamir, if I just went over to him and said, look, I see you made a mistake, and I'm disappointed. I'm real disappointed because I thought you were better than that. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be thinking. I assumed you were, and I shouldn't assume. And then he'd try to run through a brick wall for me after that because he was going to prove to me that he was better than that. So you have to kind of know the player, but the only way you know the player is building relationships. And I think that's something I've been good with. I think, and that's one of the reasons we've been good because, I feel like our kids would try to run through the brick wall for me. But honestly, I do the same for them.
Wow.
So
go ahead, Jacob.
All right, coach. So you're a great high school coach. You coach a lot of players from all different walks of life. And, I had this conversation with somebody, today. I said, man, I remember colleges, used to give out anywhere between 12 to 15 scholarships from high school athletes. But now the colleges have, I think it's about down to about 5 or 6 scholarships that Division I and Division II and Division III give out now since the NIL. And a lot of these NIL deals, of course, you know about Division I, Division II, but the Division III is kind of kept in the dark, not publicized because those NIL deals come from the rich alumni. And so, do you think that? What did you think? What do you think is the best angle for high school athletes now? That's we had a guy on here that rushed for like what about 50, 5,500 yards his last season, and he got a scholarship from Georgia State at the last minute, and his mom was telling me, she said, "Well, Jacob, man, listen." She was like, "Baby boy is been working his hind parts off since he was in 7th grade," and and she said that, but with this new NIL, if you got a player that played for Auburn, but he's transferring the South Carolina Gamecocks, they're not going to even much look at their high school standout player. So, do you think this has raised a problem for high school players, and how do you feel about that as a coach?
That's a very good question because it's something that we deal with every day. I lost a kid this summer because the parent didn't feel like we were doing everything we could to get her son a Division I Power IV scholarship. Well, 9 years ago, he might have gotten that offer. All right. And you were saying 5 or 6. That's high. It might be closer to 1 or 2 or 3 as far as what they're giving out. And and when I got the job in New York, I told them if they did everything, I've got a kid playing at North Carolina Central right now that he scored 66 touchdowns for us in a 4-year span. Really a 3-year span because he played 9th grade ball his 9th grade year. So he scored 66 touchdowns and he's 210 pounds, 6'2". He would have been a shoe-in for a division, big time division, Power 4. And it's just changed. Everything has changed because of the NIL and the transfer portal. So this is what I tell ours now, and I tried to tell this parent that this summer. All right, there's still a path for that young man or any young man if they can't get recruited, all right, to play at the Division I level. there are a lot of kids going. You look at your Newberries, your Wingett's, your Catawbas, and your all those schools are getting a lot better. Well, why?
Yeah.
Why are they getting better? Because they're getting those kids that the Division Ones were taking earlier.
That's
so
correct.
They're getting those kids. So the other thing, on the other hand, with all that, you've also got to make sure that you make them understand about the transfer portal, because nobody's teaching them this. The colleges aren't teaching them this. Nobody's teaching. The NCAA is not teaching them this. 18,000 guys go in the portal. All those guys had scholarships. They were on scholarship. 9,000 of them got picked up. 9,000 of them didn't. So 50% of them lost their college scholarship. You can't blame the kid for that. I mean, the kid is only wanting to do what he thinks is best for him, and somebody has given him advice, or he has felt like he's got too much I don't want to say too much self-worth. He's overconfident in his abilities, but somebody put that there for him. Then he loses that. I mean, there was an opportunity for him to get a college degree, and now he doesn't. He didn't have that opportunity. So there's got to be training there. So we try to do a good job with that too. But I tell ours, I got about 8 right now that are in small schools. I said, go do the best you can do, play as hard as you can play where you are, grow where you're planted. If you get to be all conference, if you get to be player of the year in the conference, then you're going to get opportunities to be Division I, right? That's another path to get there. The other thing you mentioned was Division III. See, in South Carolina, if you mention that to high school kids, they want to snub their nose up because they think, oh, Division III. They need to go above West Virginia, get to Pittsburgh area, Ohio area, and those places, and go look at the facilities those Division IIIs have. They have better facilities than some of the Division I colleges. And so, and like you said, they have endowment programs. They don't get a scholarship, so to speak, but they get everything paid for because they have those endowments. And so you got to open your kids' eyes to all of this. And like I said, we lost a kid this summer, one of my better players. His mom, he didn't want to leave, but his mom took him to another place to play because she didn't feel like we were doing everything we needed to do to get him in a Division I Power 4 school. He's not there yet. I think he can. I think he can grow into that, but he's not there yet. And but I put 248 kids in college, so I know a little bit about how this works. And it has changed. So we're all learning how it's changed and trying to get the better end of that. But I'm also the high school recruiting director or recruiting fair director in the state. So I put all these colleges in the same room with all these high school coaches. So I know a little bit about it. And it bothers you when you lose a player like that because it's not being they hadn't been educated in that area of the recruiting and that sort of thing, or they're just getting bad advice. And but it is what it is. I mean, you just next man up, let's strap it up, let's go, and wish them well. Because I do think that kid's going to be a great college football player. He's just probably not going to be at the level that he wants to be at to begin with, or that his parents want him to be at. But eventually, he could be. So, and I don't hold any animosity towards that or to them, or I want what's best for the kid. And but we are trying to navigate through this land right now that it's a nightmare, and the NCAA is not really doing much with it, and the college coaches and rightfully they're getting paid $6-7 million a year. They don't want to lose their jobs. If I can take a guy from Auburn as a running back, and he's a 21-year-old, 22 years old, maybe 23 years old with COVID stuff that's been going through, or I've got to take a chance on an 18-year-old that hadn't played college ever. I'm probably going to take that other guy because that's better job security. So I understand their plight too. So it's just a jumbled mess. But it's sad because a lot of our kids are getting left out. Like I mentioned, though, the ones that are loving it right now are those schools that are those SAC 8 schools, those schools that, were always pretty. They're well coached. They're great football programs in their own right. But now they're getting players that they didn't get 7 years ago. They're getting legit guys. And you're going to see some of those schools knock off a big school one of these days, and people's going to say, how did that happen? Well, it happened because you did a poor job at the higher level of recruiting. Because I think that's the other thing that goes along with it. I think the big colleges now, they just go to the portal. All right, they don't do the homework like they did. They don't work hard at it. They don't have to. They just go to the portal. Well, what happens when you start going to the portal and all of a sudden your university, your brand has a 2 or 3 year thing where everybody wants to go to another brand instead of your brand. Now you just picked up guys in the portal. You didn't pick up the right guys because you didn't do your job recruiting the way you had before. You're going to fall down. So I think that, it's nobody's fault, so to speak, but it's just a sad state.
Yeah.
Coach George, you got a question, Coach George, before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I don't have a question. I just want to make this comment. It is not, or I would be remiss to say I see why the success has been at your feet, and I know you give the credit to your staff, but your vision, your knowledge, as a former high school coach myself, as I sit here and hear the things that you said, it's just been absolutely tremendous. I thank you for the knowledge, and I, and just on behalf of the coaches that I've coached with and know, it's a pleasure to be able to hear you, eloquently, state the facts, talk about the things, keep the receipts that you need to keep, wish the kids well. But your selection to the Hall of Fame, without a doubt, maybe should have came a little sooner, but it has been a pleasure to sit here and have you on the show. And you have teed this up 110%. Congratulations to yourself and your brothers for that milestone. And I know your parents are super, super excited. But again, just from an old high school coach to you, Coach Dean Boyd, Dr. Dean Boyd, is just absolutely tremendous career, and keep it going. And again, much success going forward. Hi, Connie.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and I was gonna say this, just to piggyback on real quick. Me and Jacob and Coach Gordon, we big Tar Heel fans, and and especially on the basketball side. And I just look, they brought in 10 new players. That's unheard of in basketball. Where because you're not gonna never get a season where you're gonna have 10 players graduating the same year, like all seniors. So for you to have 10 new players because of the NIL and because of the transfer portal is diabolical to me. It's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? For Hubert Davis have to go through that. So I understand what you're saying, but I will say this before we get out of here. And you may not know this, and I hate to always talk about this, but it's very important because of what you talked about when it comes to these players and how things are changed and it's hurting these players getting recruited. We started this show. I started this show with the vision of schools like yourself and others that come from smaller schools. People don't never hear of them. Those players that have great careers in high school don't get recruited to these bigger schools. So I created this platform for coaches and players like yourself. So I tell every coach that come on here, I try to encourage them to say, look, send your players over. Send the ones, especially the ones that got potential to go to a bigger school or college or go to the NFL. But behind that, send them to us so we can give them a platform to be able to be seen, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, doing their journey or whatever, and whatever we can do. We bring people on it. We run academies, and Jacob, he's a recruiter with the JUCO leagues and stuff like that. So we have resources to kind of push these kids in other directions so they won't be tunnel vision to think it's all about getting to Alabama. It's all about getting to Texas and all these other schools. So I just want to, but like Coach Goins said, like we could be on here another hour just talking to you because
Absolutely.
your knowledge and the way you look at things is like I was just like this, tuned in, like I don't want to get off the air, but I know for purpose of what we got going on, we have to get off of here. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on here tonight, giving us your time. I apologize. It was my fault that we was running late. I had to check in my hotel room and all that kind of good stuff. But I do appreciate you coming on here tonight and giving us your time, Coach. And whatever we can do to help the success of your program or whatever, just always reach out to us anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd also like to say, Randy Page, he does that South Carolina the little site there and puts all that stuff up. That is so. I don't think he realizes how much, how many memories and how much love and honor and that stuff he brings up when he puts all those clippings. He does an outstanding job doing that. He referred me to you guys tonight, and I want to thank him for doing that, because this has been a really good night for us too, for me as well.
Excellent.
Okay,
Appreciate
I
you, Coach.
appreciate. So,
Appreciate you.
anything you want to say? Any social medias or any big game? Anything you want to throw out there before we leave, Coach?
We got our Bill Pate Jamboree in August 15th at our place. We've got Providence Day out of North Carolina playing in it, and we've got West Charlotte playing in it. So we got two state champions from North Carolina playing in it. Both the guys I know, Chad Greer and I go way back, good friends. Samuel Griner, he is actually from York. And he's done a great job in Charlotte area, and both of those guys are going to play one. I think West Charlotte's playing Westwood out of Columbia, and then Providence Day is playing Clover, and then we're playing Fort Mill for the nightcap. It's on Friday, August the 15th. We'd love to have you come. Any of you come and watch us play. Come to our stadium. Come to our school. Our school's been voted the #1 architectural design school for the last 15 years in the nation. In the nation. Wow. It is a super nice high school. York's a great community. It's where I grew up. But so that was fun being able to come back at the end. But you guys are more than welcome anytime. We'd love to have you. And just let me know you're coming so I can get you on that sideline or get you in that press box. Make sure you're VIPs. All right.
Okay, I appreciate that, Coach. Appreciate you,
sir.
Thank you, Coach.
You have a good night. God bless you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, you guys. Yes, sir. Take care.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.